Hey everyone, this is Pete, and welcome to something a bit different. I've been feeling a little bit low recently, and so I haven't sort of really felt up to doing a lot of the usual stuff. So I thought I'd do something that always brings me a bit of comfort, which is to play some classic DOS games, particularly adventure games and RPGs and things. And hopefully make some long playthroughs of these. I'm going to be doing these without facecam, just so they're easier to set up and edit, and I can just do them when I feel like, and when I sort of fancy a lift, as it were. So yeah, that's the plan. We're going to start by playing through the Lost Files of Sherlock Holmes #1. As far as I'm aware, the only game in this series. There might be another one. There might be a second one. This is the only one I've played previously, though. This is the case of the Serrated Scalpel. And this is an adventure game I liked a lot back in the day. It's been many, many, many years since I played it, though. So I'm intrigued to see how much of it I remember and see how good it was. This is also the CD-ROM version, so there's some speech in this. It's not fully talky, like some other CD-ROM adventures of the period, but there is some speech in this version that wasn't in the floppy disk version. Anyway, I should be quiet because this is the all-important murder scene. Ah! And there is the serrated scalpel in question. And some dramatic Sound Blaster FM synth music. Oh no! I remember always finding this game very striking for its animation. I thought the animation on the pixel art characters was very, very good. And the music was always very atmospheric to me as well. This was sort of the heyday of 256 colour VGA adventures, which is a very fond era in gaming for me. Anyway, here comes the speech.
Begging your pardon, ma'am. This is a note from Mr. Holmes from Inspector Lestrade of Scotland Yard.
Oh, very well. I'll see that he gets it. Thank you, Constable.
Have you been sufficiently fortified by Mrs. Hudson's murderous copy, Watson, to put your mind to this mystery?
Whatever are you on about, Holmes, so early in the morning?
I'm sorry to interrupt your reading, old man. Mrs. Hudson has just delivered a very intriguing note. Would you care to peruse it?
By all means. Mr. Holmes, a young woman has been brutally murdered outside the Regency Theatre in Oxford Street. The evidence here suggests that Jack the Ripper has emerged from under his rock in Whitechapel and struck savagely on Mayfair. Despite your contention that the Ripper's work is without motive, and therefore not suited for your methods, I believe you would find this case of interest, and the Yard would be most grateful to hear your opinions. G. Lestrade.
I will not deny his request. Watson, if you would accompany me, I should be glad to have you at my side.
With pleasure, Holmes. Lestrade seems finally to have recognized the value of your investigative techniques.
Whom my blushes, Watson. Your compliment will turn my head. Let us see if I am truly worthy.
Alright, and so that is the intro to this game. So this was put together by Mythos Software, not a company I'm super familiar with, and published by EA, of all people. Music and sound by Rob Hubbard, really? I did not know that. I did not notice that back in the day, but that's very cool. We've got some voice characterization by David Ian Davies, Reg Green, Pat Fitzpatrick, and Diana Montano. Not familiar with any of those names. From what little I've heard, the voice acting in this game seems surprisingly good, but like I say, it's a little unusual in that the whole game isn't voiced. It's just those cutscenes. Anyway, let's skip over these credits and get into the game proper. Right, so here we are. This is sort of fairly standard point-and-click fare for the era. Lots of detail. We've got an intelligent cursor, so that as you move the cursor around the screen, it will highlight things that are interactable. And you'll notice if you look at the verb panel down at the bottom, when you move your pointer over something, it will highlight a verb by default. And that's what will happen if you click on the thing with the right mouse button. So if I want to look at this chair, for example, if I right-click on it... Is that right? No, that's not right. I just left-click on it, beg your pardon. It's LucasArts games where you right-click to do the default thing. A typical sitting room chair. The sheen of its wine-red velveteen covering shows that it is well used. A dark purple silk dressing gown with a rolled collar is carelessly crumpled on the seat, and the anti-macassar requires changing. Don't know what an anti-macassar is, but... well, there you go. Here's Dr. Watson. Have you decided to wear your bowler hat for this investigation, Watson? As always, Holmes, I feel positively undressed without it. Have you already begun your journal entries, Doctor? Of course, Holmes. Any case in which you take an interest will certainly interest the world. Now, on the off chance that you're not familiar with the Sherlock Holmes stories, they were all written as if they were Dr. Watson penning his experiences investigating alongside Sherlock Holmes. Bullet holes in the wall. Over 70 bullet holes compose a script rendition of the Sovereign's initials, VR for Victoria Regina. This redecoration of the south wall was recently performed with a pistol as a singular demonstration of patriotism for the beloved Queen's Golden Jubilee on 21st of June 1887. Alright, I don't think there's a ton we need to do in here right now because obviously the case has only just started, but we can look around and we can get a bit of context. There's some sheet music. An original composition, though one scarcely worthy of note. It was only put to paper at Watson's insistence. One of the 205 violins made in Cremona, Italy by the master Antonio Stradivari between 1700 and 1737. Despite its value, the instrument lays within easy reach, unprotected from Watson's uncertain coordination and the fluctuating humidity caused by the capricious London climate. Can we use the violin? We can. No sound effect for that though. Done. Great. A handsome roll-top desk littered with insignificant pieces of paper and dust. A key set in the single drawer is turned to the open position. Well, that sounds like we should open the desk, doesn't it? Done. The desk contains a small daily diary and a checkbook. Do we need those things? I somehow suspect that we don't, but nothing of interest here. Okay. Alright, anyway, let's get out of here. Come along, Watson, the game's afoot. Quite so, Holmes. Wiggins. Are the rest of your lads available, Wiggins? They's at the ready, sir. Tell me what you need and I'll pass it on. There's 8 who's willing to work, so it'll cost 8 bob a day plus the usual reward. I will be requiring your assistance, Wiggins. At your service, Mr. Holmes. You got a job for the irregulars? Well, no, Wiggins, not just at the moment. Very good, sir. Let me know when there's anything we can do for you. We can all use the brass. Jonas, the newsstand operator. Whoops. My compliments, Mr. Rigby. The day finds you well, I trust. Indeed, Mr. Holmes. Business has been brisk. The great British public devours anything to do with the Ripper. While Jack's at work, my family's eating steak and kidney pud. Hello again, Mr. Rigby. Still well, I trust. Can't complain, Mr. Holmes, and if I did, who would listen? Too true. There's so little kindness in the world. Good day to you. Alright, let's proceed on our way. Alright, so here we are with the map of London. This is where we are, at 221B Baker Street. And here is the alley behind the theatre. Mr. Holmes, Mr. Watson. Dr. Watson, beg your pardon. Very good of you to come so quickly. After you have thoroughly examined the scene and the corpus delicti, please share your observations with me. Alright, well, let's investigate. Here is a battered piece of paper. It appears to be a common theatre playbill. Some cigarette butts. Behind one corner of the crate are a half-dozen cigarette ends recently crushed into the dirt. The brand is common and smoked by thousands of Londoners. The smoker was a man wearing heavy shoes or work boots. Given the length of the butts, his fingers are most certainly stained by nicotine. That seems like a clue, doesn't it? This is the storage area for damaged or discarded stage props from this season's plays. These items are waiting for the dustman. The entire area appears undisturbed. Well, let's look at the corpse then. A woman, approximately 25 years old, has had her jugular vein viciously slashed. This was certainly the cause of death. There are several non-fatal gashes on her abdomen, abrasions on the back of her neck, and scratches on her left ring finger. The distinct odour of a particularly cloying and inexpensive brand of perfume pervades the body. Okay. We can look at the individual injuries. The abrasions on her neck imply that her attacker forcibly removed some sort of heavy chain or necklace. There are 3 separate lines where a chain scraped her neck, all of which are deep and vivid. The wounds were clearly made with a short blade, perhaps the size and shape of a scalpel. Close observation reveals that the blade was serrated. There is a trace of a white powdery residue of unknown nature on the victim's coat immediately beside what appears to be the first of the abdominal wounds. The substance was most probably on the murder weapon at the time of the attack. A thorough chemical analysis would most likely reveal its composition. Okay, have we got something we can take that with? I feel like this is something we should have probably taken from Holmes's office. Oh no, we can just pick it up. Okay. Picked up white powdery residue. And there it is. A specimen was extracted from the wool of Sarah Carraway's dress. The sample was located at the point where the murderer first inserted the fatal blade. There is not enough of the substance to identify unequivocally by eye, but it smells distinctly of camphor. An envelope is sufficient to hold a small amount. Okay, anything else on the corpse? I don't think so. Let's check the handbag. It is a simple silk-lined handbag, sometimes called a reticule. The contents: a pocket mirror, a tin of facial powder, a large metal key, a kerchief, and some cachous have been dumped out and apparently subjected to a hasty search. This is a 2-foot section of iron pipe. Both ends are corroded by rust. There is a trace of red paint on one end. Well, that's interesting. Hat. A lady's very stylish hat, fashioned in fine crimson silk. Begging your pardon, Mr. Holmes, but the inspector would like a quick word before you go inside. Yes, Mr. Holmes, we have much to discuss. Is there anything you can tell me that isn't obvious from the scene, Inspector? The deceased was an actress here at the theatre, named Sarah Carraway. She lived by herself out in Bayswater. According to our only witness, there's a sister, whereabouts presently unknown. The witness found the body but remembers nothing of the person she saw fleeing the scene. You may talk to her if you like, though she's a bit in the way of being hysterical at the moment. She's in the victim's dressing room, through that door and up the stairs. But before you go, I'd like you to confirm some theories of my own. Have you already decided on an explanation for the crime, Inspector? There is no doubt that this is the Ripper's doing. The fact that we are miles away from his habitual haunts in Whitechapel is of absolutely no significance. If he'd left his calling card, it would be no clearer. The man is a monster. You seem very sure of your facts, Lestrade, but I believe there is evidence that contradicts your interpretation. I assure you that I have examined everything in great detail, Mr. Holmes. I seriously doubt that I have missed a significant clue. What have you seen that goes against my theory? I don't want to click on that. I want to click on the arrow. The absence of a perfume bottle in her purse is a vital clue. Wouldn't you agree, Inspector? A large bottle of the scent she is wearing sits on the vanity in the victim's dressing room. Powerful smell, isn't it? But the absence of the bottle is no mystery. Oh, we use these up and down buttons to scroll, that's why. I suspect you noticed that the victim's jewellery is missing. What do you make of that? I presume you're referring to the abrasions on her neck and hand. As you well know, the Ripper takes selected items of jewellery from his victims. This further supports my case, Holmes. I believe that if my theory were flawed, you would be the man to set me straight. But it looks like you have nothing material to add. The killer's choice of weapon is most telling, don't you think? Indeed. My professional eye tells me that this woman was killed with a surgeon's scalpel. And we know that the Ripper uses a scalpel with the skill of a medical man. Isn't that so, Dr. Watson? From what I have read, Inspector, the answer is yes. But I would not presume to commit myself before the autopsy is completed. I must say that if a scalpel was used, it was a dull one. The wounds appear a bit ragged. Well, that's as may be. Just going to open a drink. I'm certain that the medical examiner will confirm my observation that a surgeon's scalpel was the instrument of death. Ooh, voice is going. Do apologise. Mr. Holmes, do you have any credible reason to believe that the weapon was not a scalpel? If you look closely at the victim's coat and at the wounds, you may notice that the fatal blade had a serrated edge. Dr. Watson, can one find a serrated scalpel in the physician's black bag? I regret, Inspector, that I know of no such instrument in the hands of any medical man. That is unusual. But I suspect that it is insignificant. I never said the Ripper was a doctor. Perhaps his other scalpel lost its razor edge. He's done enough foul work with it, heaven knows. Let's not confuse the investigation with trivialities, gentlemen. Perhaps the murderer was imitating the style of Jack the Ripper. The gutter press has been filled with lurid accounts of the fiend's disgusting exploits. Perhaps won't feed the bulldog, Doctor. I need facts. Mr. Holmes, my hypothesis is that the Ripper is responsible for this brutal murder. Because there may be a bit of confusion surrounding the serrated blade, I will concentrate my efforts on the question of the murder weapon. But I would not be adverse to you and Dr. Watson looking further into this entire matter, if you wish. You may speak with the witness in the victim's dressing room, and you may want to examine the victim's flat at 21 Praed Street. Alright, that's progress. So, don't think there's anything else we can do here for the minute, so let's go in. You must be Mr. Combs and Dr. Watson. I'm Henry Carruthers, the stage manager. Inspector Lestrade told me you might want to look about the place. Feel free. I'm afraid we can't be of much help. Poor Sarah. Is that the girl who witnessed the incident? Yes, her name is Sheila Parker. She was in a dreadful state earlier, fainted dead away. As you can see, she's still very upset. I doubt she'll be able to answer any questions just yet. Let's just see about that. Miss Parker, I'm sorry to trouble you. Do you think you could bring yourself to describe what you saw? I saw Sarah lying there. Oh, it's all so horrible. I can't bear to think about it. She seems near hysterical, Holmes, and rightly so. I doubt she will be of much help in her current condition. Alright, well, let's investigate then. The perfume is called Eau de Seine. The label lists the address to the perfumery as Bell's Perfumery in Westminster. There's a ribbon around the bottle, as if it were a gift. Can we take that with us? We can. We'll just take that, shall we? There's something under that wardrobe. It's a spring. This is a steel spring attached to a small square mass of solid brass. We'll take that. Okay, no idea what that is yet. The note reads, Dear Sarah, what's in a name? A rose by any other name would smell as sweet. A secret admirer. This misquote from Romeo and Juliet is strangely the product of a feminine right hand, with the unusual habit of dotting I's with tiny hearts. Interesting. These are pink carnations with dark red veins in the petals. This startling but common effect is probably achieved by standing the flowers in some kind of dye or staining fluid. An analysis of one of these blooms might prove useful. Well then. We'll just pocket that. So we got a chest of drawers. The chest is closed and locked. There are scratches in the wood around the lock, deep enough to suggest it has been forced open more than once. It is locked. Okay. What have we got in the wardrobe? No, don't just close it. Look at the wardrobe. The shelves have been ripped out and it contains costumes used by the theatre company. The sleeves and pockets of several garments are turned inside out and the overall condition of the clothing suggests that it is poorly maintained or that it has been ransacked. Very interesting. Anything else worth looking at in here? These pictures. Boxboard portraits of several notable London stage actors of the previous generation are glued securely to the wall. A straight-back, velveteen upholstered chair, probably intended for visitors. It's a bit worn and has seen better days, but the upholstery is not ripped, nor do any of the finishing tacks appear loose. The stain has the look and smell of Macassar hair oil. There is a spattering around the stain indicative of a mild impact. A single black hair 2 inches long is caught in the oil. How do we... Can we get the hair? We probably need something like a pair of tweezers for that, don't we? Okay, well we might have to come back for that one. The stage manager seems more impatient than distressed. He's fiddling with the door latch incessantly, but does nothing constructive. On his belt hangs a key. What is the problem with that door, Mr. Carruthers? Which is to say, what are you doing? The plate is broken. I'm attempting to repair it, but I'm afraid it's quite beyond me. I'll probably have to hire a locksmith to do the work. What happened to this door? It's been forced, Mr. Holmes. Inspector Lestrade thinks it was the Ripper. He says the Ripper broke in here and dragged Sarah out into the alley to murder her. Do you think that's what happened, Mr. Holmes? Well, we I mean, we saw the murder, so The Inspector has many fine qualities, but he is overly fond of theatrics. It is clear the murderer did not attack Miss Carroway here in this room. And what is your evidence for that, Mr. Holmes? The location of the woman's hat. Exactly what I thought, Mr. Holmes. She wouldn't have had her hat unless she was going out the back door. That means the Ripper must have broken in during the performance and then went back outside to wait for her. I can't see that anything is missing, though. Do you know of anyone who might have harboured a grudge towards Miss Carroway? A rival or jilted lover? Or perhaps an obsessive admirer? Certainly not. I can't imagine why anyone would want to harm her. She wasn't the greatest actress, but she was popular in a way, and sweet. Now that you mention it, there was a young fellow who was asking about her a short time back. He seemed rather suspicious. What was suspicious about him? I found him hanging about in the alley. He asked if Sarah worked here. I offered to take a message, but he refused to leave his name or his reason for calling. He was just a lad, no more than 17, but bright-eyed and very single-minded. He didn't want to see Sarah so much as he wanted her address. Did you give it to him? What do you take me for, sir? I don't go handing my girls over to any dimwit who just happens by, thank you. My refusal didn't seem to bother him at all, though. He just smiled and thanked me for my time. Pretty as you please. Then he said if I changed my mind, he'd make it worth my while and that I could leave a message for him at the Moongate, whatever that means. Do you have the key to that chest of drawers? No, my master key only opens the doors. Sarah's the only one who had the key to that chest. I think she had a spare, but I don't know where she kept it. Have you recalled any details that might assist my investigation? I think I've told you everything I know. Alright, I bet the key in Sarah's handbag. Holmes, if you'd like to question Miss Parker before we leave, I have a sedative that might calm her. This woman's distress appears to be genuine, Watson. As a professional observer, would you say her behaviour is that of a person who has suffered a terrible shock? She is certainly within what I would call the credible emotional range of such a person. I believe her response to be authentic, though the woman is an actress. And you yourself, Holmes, have fooled me countless times with your own sham performances. Watson, do we have anything that might calm Miss Parker? We might as well have the benefit of her testimony, meagre though discharge claims it to be. Yes, Holmes, I'm carrying a potent sedative. A small dose should do the trick. Try giving her this. Drugging women, that's the Sherlock Holmes way. Thank you, sir. I feel better, but much like I'm swimming underwater. I think I can answer your questions now, if my tongue will obey my brain. Miss Parker, do you now think you might tell us of what you saw of this terrible murder? I saw Sarah lying there dead. Blood was everywhere, but especially by her head. I could see her insides. A man in a cloak was rushing off into the street, but I didn't get no good look at him. I didn't see no more than that, sir, honest. I just ran in there and fainted, I guess. Next thing I know, Mr. Carruthers is waving his coat in my face. Do you know any of her friends or relatives? No, sir, not personally. I didn't even know Sarah very well. But about a week ago, Sarah got this pendant. Big ugly thing it was, too. She said it was from her sister. I believe her name is Anna or Hannah, but I don't know where she lives. Do you know this secret admirer, the person who gave her these flowers? No, and neither did Sarah. She never was one to appreciate gifts from strangers, but she so liked these that she decided to keep them. Just tonight she told me I could throw him out if I had a mind to. Now the inspector has told me to touch nothing till he completes his investigation. How am I supposed to get dressed? Oops. This perfume was a gift, wasn't it? Do you know who gave it to her? She said it was from her special friend, but I know nothing about him. He called for her here from time to time, but she was very secretive, always making sure everyone was away before she brought him up. Click. As far as I know, he's the only man to see the inside of this room other than Mr. Carruthers. I have no idea why she didn't want to show him off. Do you know anyone who could be responsible for this brutal attack? I didn't know anyone on Earth could do such a thing as what was done to her. Now I know there's monsters in the world for certain. But I can't believe that they are friends of mine. Or Sarah's, for that matter. What was your relationship to Miss Carraway? I was her understudy. We were performing the play, The Loves of Hattie Hill, and Sarah as the lead. I played Beth, the servant girl, but I understudied the lead in case... Oh, I can't bear to think about it. Can you direct me to anyone who might help me learn more about Miss Carraway? No, sir, I'm sorry. Like I said, I didn't know her very well. She was very protective of her personal life. Alright, well... I'm sorry, Mr. Holmes. The bolt has jammed in the lock. Until I can pry it loose or replace the spring mechanism, we won't be able to use the door. Well, Mr. Carruthers, it just so happens... Give spring to Henry Carruthers. I believe this spring may be helpful in repairing the lock. Why, yes, thank you. I believe that is just the piece I need. I'll have this finished in a moment if my fingers don't fail me. Not questioning at all where that came from, or why some dude who is not a policeman has got that in his pocket. May I leave now? Yes. Thank you. Right, let's just check that handbag. It is a simple silk-lined handbag, sometimes called a reticle. Yes, we know this. We pick up the handbag. Please examine anything you like, but I shall need that handbag and its contents as evidence. Okay, I guess we'll have to get that a bit later then. Alright, I'm gonna... Well, I'll tell you what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna save it here. Yes, we're playing on Scum VM. This runs on Scum VM, if you didn't know. Enter a description for slot 1. There's been a murder. And we shall pick this up in the next episode. So yeah, I'm already feeling a bit better. I used to love this game when I was little. I say little, I was probably a teenager when this came out, but I really enjoyed it back then. And in fact, if I remember rightly, this was the game that inspires me and my friend Ed to do a comic strip loosely based on ourselves, where my friend Ed was Sherlock Holmes and I was Watson. It had very little to do with the actual Sherlock Holmes stuff, but yeah, I'm pretty sure our shared love of this game back at the time was one of the sort of stimuli for creating that in the first place. But that's a story for another day, I think. Anyway, for now, it just remains for me to say, as always, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you again next time.